Hey, greetings, everyone. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West here, and welcome to the Steadfast and Loyal podcast. You gotta light 'em up before they burn it down. Let her dig deep, put 'em in the ground. Blood on their hands, they're hellbound. Sing us all. Before they burn it down. Greetings, I'm Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. In my career, from the battlefield to Congress, honor and integrity have always been my compass. When it comes to building a precious metals portfolio for my family, I choose United Patriot Coin. Their commitment to honesty and transparency aligns with everything I stand for. They care about our great country and focus on serving patriots from all walks of life. They've teamed up with veterans of the precious metals market to create a new kind of gold dealer designed to serve the needs of a new type of gold buyer. And that's why I know I can trust them when it comes time to buy my gold and silver. If you value honesty and reliability as I do, then join me. You know, without a doubt, what we just saw happen this past weekend in Israel has to cause us grave concern. And I think it's really delusional, deranged, I don't know, out of the worldly for President Joe Biden to say that Benjamin Netanyahu needs to take the win. 50 some odd rockets, ballistic missiles, drones were launched from Iran against our number one ally in the Middle East. Thankfully, a good percentage of them did not even make it off of the launch platform, pretty much so. They failed. But still, even with the fact that there was no massive loss of life, that many of these rockets, missiles, and drones were shot down thanks to the Iron Dome system, the Arrow system, the David Sling system, which have been developed in conjunction with the United States, you still don't take that as a win. Because you have to think about this, the audacity of the number one state sponsor of Islamic terrorism to think that they could get away with launching 350 rockets, ballistic missiles, and drones at another sovereign nation. And they have said how they wish to wipe Israel off the map. Now, Iran wants to say that this is in response to the fact that Israel took out 6 of their senior officials, leaders, generals, whatever you want to call them, of the Iranian Revolutionary Guards Corps, who, as we have come to know, were behind masterminding the Hamas attack of October the 7th. Now, let me put this in perspective. It's kind of like when we found out about Admiral Yamamoto, who is the guy, the mastermind behind December the 7th of 1941, the attack on Pearl Harbor. We got intelligence about him, flying and being transported from island to island there in the Pacific, and we dispatched fighter aircraft, and they shot him down. Yeah, that's what you do in war. Or General Qasem Soleimani, who is the head of the Quds Force, which was a subsidiary of the Iranian Revolutionary Guards Corps. And this Quds Force in Iran, they're a designated terrorist organization. Soleimani, according to, international agreements, accords, whatevers, he was not supposed to be traveling outside of Iran. He was in Iraq, coordinating the attacks against American troops. Guess what happened in the Trump administration? They smoked him. See, there's certain people, there's certain countries, there's certain regions, the only thing they understand is strength and might. compromise, appeasement, negotiation, acquiescence, or using the word don't. They don't care. Joe Biden says don't. He said don't to Russia. He said don't to Iran. Tony Blinken said don't. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin says don't. Well, they did. And they did because they don't respect us. They don't believe that we will back up what we're saying. And the Iranians and these Islamic terrorists, they have every right reason to believe that we're not. This administration. I want you to think about something. Donald Trump leaves office. Iran was basically bankrupt. They had less than $5 billion of cash reserves. Now, I talked to some people. That's pretty much so. Your country's bankrupt. Less than $5 billion of cash reserves. But let's not forget in the Obama administration how somehow a unmarked airplane in the middle of the night flies to Iran with pallets of cash, laundered cash. And in the Biden administration, I think we're up to close to $25, $26 billion that the Biden administration, really the third term of Barack Obama, has sent to the Iranians. So, the reason why we have gotten to this point is that because we have an administration that is enriching the coffers of the number one state sponsor of Islamic terrorism. And then they come out publicly and say, don't, but then they give them money. Or you look at the Biden administration that wants to completely shut down, put a kibosh on our oil and gas industry. No new developments for liquefied natural gas exports. No, by the way, Port Arthur, Texas, south of here, number one exporter of liquefied natural gas to the world. But they put a shutdown on that. But yet they ease back on the sanctions, oil and gas revenue sanctions on Iran. So now they're out there, and who's Iran's number one buyer? China. They're making money hand over fist. Oh, but you hear the Biden administration, well, they're going to use this for humanitarian assistance, and it should be used for humanitarian assistance. Don't use it for anything else. I can see the Ayatollah laughing as they use those funds to enrich the coffers of Hamas, the Houthis, Hezbollah, Islamic Jihad, Al-Quds, Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigade, the whole laundry list. So you can sit around publicly and say don't, but your actions say something different. Or you can think about what just happened recently in the United Nations Security Council, where there was a resolution brought up to demand a ceasefire against Israel in this combat operations against Hamas. Why would you want to have a ceasefire against an Islamic terrorist organization that crossed your sovereign border and came into your country and killed 1,200? I don't get it. You got to smoke them. Why would you have an administration saying you need to show restraint? You can't go into Rafah. Well, sorry. But this UN resolution demanding a ceasefire upon Israel, the United States of America abstained in that vote. Didn't have the courage, Biden administration, didn't have the courage to say no. But yet they come out public and say don't. But then when they get this pretty simple choice, they say we abstain. I remember this song, one of my favorite rock bands is Rush. Love that band. Sorry that, Neil Peart, the incredible drummer of the band, lost his life. I believe it was last year. But they had a song called Free Will. And in the refrain of the song, Free Will, it says, if you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice. See, the United States, the Biden administration says, you know what, let's just abstain. They still made a choice. They made a decision. And when they made that decision to abstain, the Ayatollah Khomeini took to social media. How is it that the number one state sponsor of Islamic terrorism, their leader, is out on social media? But yet, if I were to say something goofy, I mean, some of these people would kick me off of social media. That's a subject for another day. But he came and said, we have now created a division between the United States and Israel. When you have people in Dearborn, Michigan shouting death to America, death to Israel, the weekend prior to what we just saw happen this weekend, nothing happens. The congressional representative that represents that area of Dearborn, Michigan, offered no apology whatsoever, did not condemn those statements whatsoever. That's her congressional district. Oh, by the way, she's nothing more than a Hamas propagandist anyhow. Should be removed from her office for treason. They can elect somebody else, but Rashida Tlaib should not be there. These are the things that we're showing to Iran. These are the things that we're showing to Islamic terrorists and jihadists. So this was not a win, President Biden. You have taken a country that was basically bankrupt and enriched them to the point where now, back some time ago during the Trump administration, Hezbollah, Hamas, Islamic Jihad, the Houthis, Al-Quds, Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigade, all of these folks, they were having to have lemonade stands and bake sales to try to raise money. Now, they're just shooting rockets and missiles all over the place and coordinating with the number one sponsor of Islamic terrorism, which is Iran. And furthermore, if you think this new axis of evil that we have developing, if you think that China and Xi Jinping does not have a hand on this, he's not aware of this, people aren't going to him and, saying, hey, this is what we plan to do and getting his blessing, you're nuts. I mean, they said that they've already seen, Chinese equipment there being used by Hamas. Putin went to China before he invaded Ukraine. By the way, you know, it's easy to invade Ukraine when you have someone that says, now don't do that. After Barack Obama, of course, originally sent them socks and MREs, and this administration is sending them money upon money upon money, but they don't even account for it. All the money that we sent to Ukraine, they should be smoking them. But now they have a World War I trench warfare stalemate. But they want more money while our border is wide open. And that's another part of this. Why would you have a wide open border at a time when you have such an escalation of Islamic jihadism and terrorism? I mean, here in Texas, we just found out that some Afghan gentleman who has been deported twice, released twice, is a member of an Afghanistan Islamic terrorist organization. But somehow DHS agents, whatever, just did not tell the judge that this individual was on a terrorist watch list, was a member of a terrorist organization. And so the judge released him once again, a legal immigrant. This is what's happened in our country. And for Joe Biden to tell Benjamin Netanyahu, first and foremost, take the win, but then say, now, you shouldn't retaliate. Can you imagine if someone had told the United States of America after Pearl Harbor, you shouldn't retaliate? Or after September 11th, you shouldn't retaliate. Just take it as a win that they just knocked down buildings. You can rebuild the buildings. It was only 3,000 people. You're a country of 350 million. You'd be all right. Could have been a lot worse. Could have been more airplanes. So just take the win and don't retaliate. It's not how we roll in the United States of America. So why would we expect Israel to roll that way? It's simply because this Democrat Party, this administration, this Joe Biden, who is really just the puppet of Barack Obama, they don't support Israel. When you are allowing people to be in the streets of the United States of America and support an Islamic terrorist organization that just recently killed Americans October the 7th of 2023. But if you go back to October the 23rd of 1983, you will remember that Hezbollah, proxy army of Iran, killed some 234 Marines, sailors, and soldiers in the Beirut barracks bombing. And then what did we not do in the Reagan administration, which was contrary to what we had done previously? When we knew about Muammar Gaddafi being behind the bombing of a nightclub, a disco in Germany that killed American troops, Ronald Reagan bombed Libya. When we knew that an Iranian sea mine, naval mine, struck an American warship, they sunk Iranian naval vessels and destroyed their oil platforms. But one of Ronald Reagan's biggest regrets was that he had advisors talk him out of retaliating and responding to the loss of 234 Marines, sailors, and soldiers in the Beirut barracks bombing, which until 9/11 came along, that was the largest loss of life of Americans to an Islamic terrorist attack. Reagan didn't respond. And what did that do? Well, that emboldened Islamic jihadists and terrorists. Osama bin Laden referred to the United States of America as a paper tiger. And we saw the bombings of embassies. We saw the attack on the USS Cole in Yemen. We've seen all of these things happen. We've had Americans that have been captured and beheaded. But yet we still continue to, let's show restraint. Let's have a ceasefire against people that only understand two things: strength and might. Either you are going to firmly stand against them or you're going to allow them to do what is necessary. And again, I cannot understand Americans or anybody in the United States of America supporting a terrorist organization, an Islamic terrorist organization. I can't believe anyone that would stand up and say Israel should just, take it as a win and not retaliate. If a bunch of rockets and missiles came flying over the border out of Mexico into the United States of America, what do you think Americans would do? Even if we shot down all of the rockets and missiles and drones. Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. We got a government that's allowing millions of illegal immigrants to come across our border illegally. They want them to join our military. They want to give them Second Amendment rights. That's what a federal judge in Illinois said. I guess we should just take the win, even though someone like a Laken Riley has lost their life. Kate Steinle has lost her life. So many other of our young men and women are losing their lives to fentanyl. I guess we should just take the win. I mean, who cares if we lose hundreds of thousands of people to fentanyl, which is a chemical war? We got 350 million. You'll be all right. I don't understand this mentality. And all of these folks that are sitting around, saying that Israel is getting what it deserves, you got to be kidding me. I said it before, I'll say it again. And let me just pose it to you in this way. All of these people running around ranting about a two-state solution and creating this place that has never existed before called Palestine. Palestine is a region. It's not a nation. Never has been. And if you want to prove me wrong, show me throughout history where there's been a king of Palestine, a queen of Palestine. Show me where there's been a nation of Palestine. Show me a currency, show me a culture, show me a language, show me something that is delineating. I can go to Kurdistan right now and I can show you a separate culture, a separate language, everything. The world's largest ethnic group without a homeland, the Kurdish people. But yet now we want to create a land for a place that's just a region. I mean, how absurd would it be for someone to say we need to have a country called Appalachia inside the United States of America? So this whole thing about appeasing Arabs, that's all they are. Nomadic Arabs. Israel and Jordan was a two-state solution. They didn't like that. So they have used terrorism for this entire time. They have used the greatest marketing tool to all of a sudden associate a region to a people that have never existed before. They're just Arabs. And they have created these terrorist organizations that are killing Americans. This isn't just about Israel, folks. We're next. One of the favorite little sayings of these Islamic jihadists is that we go for the Saturday people first, then the Sunday people. You know what they're talking about? Talking about the Jews and then the Christians. They're talking about Israel and the United States of America. Basically, they're talking about Western civilization. And we got people that say, take the win when they shoot rockets and missiles at you. And we won't be there to support you if you retaliate. Let me read you this little article here that I found, PJ Media, titled, Holy Crap. Joe Biden approved Iran's assault on Israel within certain limits. And when I first saw this pop up on my little feed, I was like, you got to be kidding me. But check this out. And this was written by Matt Margolis, 12:51 p.m. on April the 14th. Iran informed Turkey in advance of its planned operation against Israel, a Turkish diplomatic source told Reuters on Sunday, adding that Washington had conveyed to Tehran via Ankara, that's the seat of the Turkish government, that any action it took had to be within certain limits. Okay, let me repeat this. A Turkish diplomatic source told Reuters on Sunday, adding that Washington had conveyed to Tehran via Ankara, through Turkey, that any action it took had to be within certain limits. You got to be kidding me. We're going to send communications to the mullahs and the ayatollahs of Iran saying, okay, if you're going to shoot at Israel, it has to be within these limits. I thought we said don't. But now we're saying, okay, you can, but within these limits. The diplomatic source told them this. Turkey, which has denounced Israel for its campaign in Gaza, said earlier on Sunday that it did not want a further escalation of tensions in the region. The Turkish source, speaking on condition of anonymity, the left uses that condition of anonymity, said Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan had spoken to both his U.S. and Iranian counterparts in the past week to discuss the planned Iranian operation, and Ankara had been made aware of possible developments. Earlier this week, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, a real example of, type A masculinity, spoke to Fidan. Earlier this week, the U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken spoke to Fidan, the foreign minister of Turkey, to make clear that escalation in the Middle East was not in anyone's interest. Okay, so how do you deter that escalation? Iran informed us in advance of what would happen. Possible developments also came up during the meeting with Blinken. And they, the United States, conveyed to Iran through us that this reaction must be within certain limits. Can you even believe that? That we would actually be in talks with an intermediary? I guess that's what Turkey is to Iran. And Turkey is not a friend of Israel anyhow. Saying, here's your green light. Here's a caution light. It's inconceivable to me. But then I don't understand why we have these dealings with Qatar either. Qatar is not a friend to the United States of America. I don't care what you say. The leadership of Hamas lives in Qatar. When Barack Obama decided that he was going to release 5 senior members of the Taliban, they went to Qatar. That's where the government in exile of the Taliban was located. And now we have a U.S. military base, an air base there, Al Udeid, where the Qataris are telling us you can't use that air base to support any operations really in support of Israel, against Gaza or Iran or whatever. I say, well, we're out of here. And I'm sure we're paying them quite a good bit of chump change for us to have that air base there, Al Udeid. I've been to Al Udeid, and I know what the Qataris are all about. The Qataris are also a major state sponsor to Islamic terrorism and jihadism. Why aren't we just cutting ties with these people instead of being played like a fiddle? We have a very important decision to make in America going forward. If we continue with this leadership of weakness, what did Barack Obama say? Leading from behind. Down south, we call that following. You don't lead from behind in the United States of America. You lead. Or as General Patton once said, lead, follow, get the hell out of my way. But that's not what we have here in this country at this time. So the decision that we have to make when we look at what is happening on our border, when we look at our foreign policy, when we look at the relationship that we have in every major region, it was so funny to me that we heard people saying that, Donald Trump is going to put us into World War III. Donald Trump is going to take us into war. Donald Trump is going to put us into nuclear war. Where are those voices now? When we see all of the hotbeds of chaos and confusion and armed conflict all across the world because of the third term of Barack Obama, who, for whatever reason, is more aligned with the Muslim Brotherhood and Iran than with our best ally in the Middle East. There's just something very simple that Israel is looking for. And I will tell you, they don't need the United States of America to fight their fight. Yeah, it would be good to have an ally. They don't want foreign aid. They're happy to buy whatever they need, the Hellfire missiles, or help them to develop and build their own Hellfire missiles and, the spare parts for the F-16s or their attack helicopters or whatever, munitions, the intelligence sharing. But do you really think that if I'm sitting over in Israel and what I just read you, where the Secretary of State of the United States of America is talking to another one of your state-sponsored enemies, Turkey, who is talking to your number one foe, Iran, which is backing all of these Islamic terrorist groups? You really think I want to share intel with the United States of America right now if I'm Israel? Just take the win. Don't retaliate. If you seek to retaliate, we're not going to support you. It's not how you win on the battlefield. You don't win on the battlefield by telling your enemy that, go ahead, just do it, but within certain limits. Israel is looking for a United States of America that will be one simple thing that this administration has shown that it is not. That is steadfast and loyal.
Before they burn it down.